Okay, so get this. Imagine you're prepping this big presentation, right, about human potential and all that.
Oh, I feel that. Always a fun one.
Right, but like really high stakes. And then, bam, you stumble onto this episode of Star Trek, The Next Generation, Hide and Q.
Oh, wow. That's a thinker for sure.
It really is. And suddenly, all those ideas about human nature, ambition, the good, the bad, they're not just theoretical anymore.
Because you've got Q basically waving a cosmic mirror in your face, forcing you to confront it all head on.
Exactly. And this isn't just Q messing with the crew for kicks this time. Remember, we're past Farpoint now. He's got a point to make.
He's always got a point to make, right? That's Q. But this time, it's personal, especially for Riker.
So, quick recap for anyone who hasn't seen it in a while. The Enterprise is on its way to this urgent rescue mission.
People are counting on them. The stakes are high.
And bam, Q shows up, throws a wrench in everything. Classic.
Classic Q. And there's this undercurrent of something different. He's not just judging humanity. He's offering something, or at least dangling it in front of them.
That's the thing about Q. You can never be quite sure what game he's playing.
Right. Like, he sees something in Riker, in humans in general, and it both fascinates him and terrifies him. This potential we have.
Which he spells out pretty explicitly, right? He offers Riker a place among the Q.
Can you imagine being handed the universe on a silver platter? The power to do anything, change anything.
The ultimate promotion, but also the ultimate responsibility.
Talk about pressure. No wonder the episode plays out the way it does.
Okay, so Q creates this game, strands most of the crew on this planet that looks like it's straight out of Napoleonic Europe.
Except for Picard, interestingly enough. He's totally absent from this whole scenario.
Which has to be deliberate on Q's part. Almost like he wants to isolate Riker, put him in the hot seat without his usual sounding board.
It's like Q binge-watched a bunch of period dramas and thought, perfect, this will get the creative juices flowing. But it's more than just a setting, right? It's about temptation, power, love, belonging.
All those primal urges laid
Right.
bare, and each member of the crew has to confront them. It's actually really well done how they weave that through the whole episode.
Data's choice gets me every time. Q offers to make him human, something he's always longed for, right?
Right? It's like his deepest desire, just handed to him.
And he turns it down, sees right through it.
It makes you think, like, what IS humanity really, if someone like Data, who understands us on this intellectual level, still chooses to define himself on his own terms? That's huge.
Huge. And it kind of sets the stage for the bigger questions the episode tackles. It's, like you said before, it's not just about the game, it's about human nature.
And the fact that we're even capable of making those choices. Data, choosing authenticity over an illusion of humanity. Riker, grappling with the implications of this immense power.
It goes back to that classic philosophical question. Do we have free will, or are we just puppets dancing on a string?
Especially with Q pulling those strings, right?
Well, he likes to think he's pulling the strings, at least.
It reminds me of that line from Hamlet, you know, what a piece of work is man. Picard actually quotes it to Q at one point.
Chills. Because it's like Q's saying, oh, you think you're in control here. It's a power play, but it's also this really profound observation about the nature of existence.
Totally. And it makes you question everything that's happening in the episode. Are these characters making real choices, or is Q just manipulating them to get a rise out of Picard? Or maybe both.
It's that delicious ambiguity that makes Star Trek so good. It gives you these big philosophical questions to chew on long after the credits roll.
Speaking of big questions, we got to talk about Riker's dilemma here. He's got this power, right? He could literally change anything, solve the whole crisis on the planet, save a dying child, all with a snap of his fingers.
It's the ultimate temptation to play God, to take the easy way out.
And part of him wants to, you can see it in his eyes, but then there's this other part of him, this hesitation. He knows it's not that simple.
And that's where it gets really interesting, right? Because it's not just about whether or not to use the power. It's about what that power does to you.
Exactly. And I think that's something a lot of us can relate to, even without Q offering us godhood. Like, we all face those moments where we have to choose between what's easy and what's right.
Yeah.
Between taking a shortcut and doing the work.
And sometimes those choices have consequences that reach far beyond ourselves.
It's like those life hack articles, you know, promising you the world the easy way. But this episode, this Hide and Q, it's a good reminder that real growth, real change, that takes work. Struggle even.
No shortcuts.
Yeah.
It's like that whole the journey is the destination thing.
Totally. Riker could have snapped his fingers, problem solved. But would it have really been solved? Or would it just create a whole new set of problems?
Exactly. And at what cost, right? I mean, it's not like Q doesn't see the potential in humanity. the good potential.
Oh, absolutely. He's fascinated by it, wouldn't you say? Even a little intimidated?
100%. Remember that line where he calls us unusual creatures? Something like, in your own limited ways. Ways which, in time, will not be so limited.
Okay, yeah, now I have got chills. The Q are scared of us. That's a lot to process.
Think about it. Our track record, what we've accomplished, for better or worse, Q's got that long view. He sees where it all could lead, the good, the bad.
The terrifyingly unknown.
Which brings us back to that title, Hide in Q. We're not just playing this game with him, we're playing it with ourselves, aren't we? Like some part of us is hiding from that potential, while another part is desperately seeking it out. Exactly. It's like we're not sure if we're ready for the responsibility that comes with that kind of power.
Riker's hesitation speaks volumes. He wants to help, obviously. But that power, it spares him.
Wouldn't it scare you to have that much control, to know you could change anything with a thought?
It's the oldest story in the book, right? Genies and lamps, monkey's paws, deals with the devil, that desire for power, for a shortcut. It's timeless.
And it's the ultimate test. How do we respond to that temptation? That's what defines us.
Riker choosing his flawed, limited humanity over godhood. That's a powerful statement.
It really is. And it makes you wonder, what would W.E. do in that situation? It's easy to say we'd make the right choice, but...
Speaking of powerful statements, I gotta bring up Picard's line at the end. You know me and my Picard moments. Perhaps someday we will discover that space and time are simpler than the human equation.
So simple, yet so profound.
Right. Here we are, exploring the galaxy, encountering beings like Q, and Picard saying the real mystery is us.
That's the thing about Star Trek. It's not just about spaceships and phasers. It's about holding a mirror up to ourselves, making us think about what it means to be human.
Which, let's be honest, is a pretty great thing to be thinking about as you prep a presentation on human potential.
It's weird, right? Like, we watch Hide and Q, and it's this fun, thought-provoking episode, but it's also kind of a warning, isn't it?
Oh, for sure, because it's not just science fiction anymore. We're living in a world with AI, genetic engineering, stuff that would seem like Q-level tech a few decades ago.
Right, and the thing is, we're still figuring out the rules. Like, what does it mean to be ethical, to be responsible when we have this much power to change things? And that's the question Hide and Q throws at us, isn't it? It's not about the answer. It's about wrestling with the question itself.
Totally. And honestly, I kind of love that the episode doesn't give us easy answers. Anyone can write a message episode that hits you over the head with a moral. This is way more nuanced.
That's the beauty of good science fiction. It's not about predicting the future. It's about holding up a mirror to the present, using these what-if scenarios to understand ourselves better, which, let's be real, is a pretty perfect thing for our listener to be thinking about as they prep this presentation on human potential, right?
It really is. It's like we should send the writers of Hide and Q a thank you note for giving us so much to unpack. But okay, let me ask you this. If you had to pick one big takeaway from this episode, especially for someone thinking about human potential, what would it be?
Oh, man, that's a tough one. But I think for me, it always comes back to that balance between potential and responsibility. Yeah, humanity could achieve incredible things, maybe even Q-level stuff someday. But the question is, how do we make sure we're worthy of that power?
Ooh, that's good. Because it's not enough to just say, humans have potential, yay us. We gotta acknowledge the flip side. The ways we could mess things up if we're not careful. Which, let's be real, history gives us plenty of examples of.
Sadly, yeah. But maybe, and this is me being optimistic here, maybe the fact that we're even asking these questions means we're on the right track.
There's that self-awareness again, that thing that Picard called the human equation. Maybe that's the key to it all. Not just the power to do things, but the wisdom to know what to do and when to just not.
Now that is a powerful thought.
Right. So, to our listener out there, prepping that presentation, remember, the human equation is a wild, unpredictable thing, full of contradictions, possibilities, the potential for both amazing good and incredible mess-ups. High and Q just gives us a glimpse of how high the stakes might get.
And hey, maybe, just maybe, by embracing our humanity, flaws and all, we'll figure out how to navigate that future responsibly, hopefully.
Fingers crossed. And on that note, thanks for joining us for this deep dive, everyone. Live long and prosper.